Ciao, amici. Welcome to our very first podcast episode of Experience Italy with Friends. I'm your host, Tanya, and joining me on this adventure is my Italian husband, Davide.
Ciao a tutti. Welcome, everyone.
In this episode, we are excited to share with you our story, how we met, why we love Italy, our passion for travel, and the experiences that have led us to want to pick up and move to la dolce vita.
Otherwise known as the sweet life.
We're excited to have you join us on this journey. So let's get started.
Andiamo.
Experience Italy with Friends is a travel and lifestyle podcast where we will explore our favorite destinations and hidden gems, share key travel tips and cultural insights, and provide real-time updates about our move to this remarkable country. Join me, Tanya Razzo, an Italian travel expert and founder of Amici Vacations, and my Italian husband and producer, Davide Razzo, on a journey that is sure to inspire you and prepare you to create immersive and authentic experiences of your own in the beautiful country of Italy. Welcome back. Again, I'm Tanya Razzo, the host of Experience Italy with Friends. And let's start off this first episode telling a little bit about ourselves. I think it's first important to say I've been traveling to Italy for over 25 years, and I've been married to an Italian for almost as long. So I think it's easy to say that I love Italy. It's truly one of my favorite places in the world. And after a very long career as an accounting and finance executive, I decided to follow my passion and knowledge about Italy and went out and founded Amici Vacations, a custom travel planning service where I focus on creating immersive and authentic travel experiences to Italy. My goal is to share this country with others and what I love about it. And a key part of what I love about Italy is my husband, Davide, who I already mentioned is an Italian, and he's responsible for introducing me to his Italian family, helping me live the Italian culture. So I'm excited to be doing this podcast with him. So I'm going to hand it over to him, tell a little bit about himself and how we got here.
Hey, ciao a tutti. Well, how we got here, we will probably know a little bit later, but let me tell a little bit about myself. So I've been a music producer for the last 15 years. I've produced national, international artists. And then I got a little bit into podcasting about 5-6 years ago. And now we're here. So I'm very excited to produce this one because it's about my home country, Italy, and about you.
Well, I think we can say it's with to get each other, and it's fun to have a project for once in our careers.
Yes.
Together. Though I guess we could say we've had a joint project in creating a family and raising children together, but we've never worked together.
No, we haven't.
But we love Italy together.
Yeah.
And we've decided to move to Italy together.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a fun journey that we do together. And talking about our 25 plus years of Italy experiences and sharing the big one that's coming, our move to Italy, and how that's going to play out.
Yes.
So I think we have lots to share with our listeners, and we're very excited that you're joining us.
Well, I'm excited too. So why don't we just kick it off? And where are we going to start?
Well, I think what maybe everybody has a question of first is, why are we obsessed with Italy? Why am I obsessed with Italy? I think you had no choice. You were raised by Italians and have always been an Italian.
But I wasn't raised in Italy, which is a difference.
Okay, well, get there in a second.
Okay.
But I think first is, why I love Italy. And I think it starts with, and maybe I need to take a step back here for a second, is Italy really is the star of this podcast. And I think that needs to be kind of front and center to what we're going to be talking about when we say Experience Italy with Friends. It's really all about Italy. Davide and I are here to bring it to life for you and tell you what we love about it. But it really will come down to learning a lot about this country and what we've learned over these years. And I think the first thing to explain is, when did I first fall in love with Italy? And then I married an Italian, and it was in that order. I was 25 years old, and I was backpacking across Europe. And one of the many countries that I went to was Italy, and it was love at first sight. Like, I remember it as if it was yesterday. First traveling to Florence, then on to Siena, then Rome, Cinque Terre, and I was just one after the other, blown away by the beauty of Italy, the just joy of being there, the people that I met in each of these places. Like, I just was constantly taking a step back and going, this is like the most beautiful country I've ever been in. And again, this was after being in like 5 or 6 different countries prior to this. And it immediately struck a chord with me that I loved this country and I was having an amazing time. And, I even recently came across a photo album of that trip. I had taken a photo from the train in Tuscany and had written under it, I could definitely live here and grow olive trees one day. Maybe that was a premonition of things to come.
I would love to. So,
but I knew then. And so, the trip had a significant impact on me personally. I had never been outside of the country. I'd always dreamed of it, wished I had done a study abroad program in college, wasn't able to, and so had to wait until I'd been working a couple of years and could fund such a trip. But I returned to Minnesota after that trip with a conviction that I had to go back. And I didn't know where in Europe I wanted to go. I mean, I wanted to be in Italy, but I didn't know, specifically how to get there. But I was working with a public accounting firm and mentioned that I wanted to be in Europe. And strangely enough, I was given a chance within weeks to relocate to Switzerland. And I jumped at it. I needed to be in Europe. And then I'm in Switzerland. And after a couple of months, I met Davide, who coincidentally is a Swiss-born Italian. So I guess, Davide, explain how you're there and how you're Italian and not Swiss.
Sure.
That's always one of the first questions everybody asks us is, but are you Swiss or are you Italian?
I'm Italian, and here's why. My parents, they emigrated to Switzerland when they were very young, probably late 60s. And so I was born just a little after that. My brother, all my 2 brothers were born in Switzerland. So in Switzerland, you don't have birthright like here in the US. You actually take the nationality of your parents. So my parents were Italian or are Italians. They're still around, so luckily for us. And so that's why I'm not a Swiss. Did I have a chance to become a Swiss? Of course. But the Italian pride in myself, I never wanted to. And maybe it also had to do something about military service. I didn't want to serve in Switzerland, and neither in Italy. In Italy, it was mandatory, but because I was living in Switzerland, I was exempt of that. So, yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in Switzerland, but in an Italian family.
Yes.
And in an Italian community.
Mainly, yes.
So many of your friends were both Swiss Italian, and you maintained your Italian passport. And, I think too, that was my first introduction to the Italian culture was through Davide and his family, because while we were in Switzerland, every Sunday almost, we would go to Davide's parents' home for Sunday lunch.
Sunday lunch.
And their first language is Italian. So Italian was spoken in the home. So while I was in Switzerland struggling to learn High German, Swiss German, and speak English during the day at an international company, I would spend weekends being with Italians and learning the Italian language or trying. But I think, that was our first, for cementing kind of a relationship with Italy for me was this relationship with an Italian and his family and our love of traveling or my love of traveling. And I would encourage Davide, like, hey, let's travel around Switzerland. And many of the places that we went to were to drive down to Italy for long weekends, vacations. We went to Milan, Lake Como, Venice, La Cinque Terre, Tuscany. again and again and again. We love Tuscany. And then, eventually we decided we did want to come back to the U.S. And raise our family here in the American culture and education. But because we had family in Europe and Switzerland and Italy, we would continue to go back to vacation in Italy,
Right.
and explore new regions every time we visited. So, I guess we married in Switzerland, but then came back to the U.S. and just had this continuous relationship with Italy. And that was the beginning of our love affair with an obsession with Italy.
Yeah, and maybe you introduced me more on the traveling, because I have to say, because my parents they are from southern Italy, and when we would go on vacation with my parents, the destination was always the same, and which is southern Italy, Calabria. And so we would fly, not literally fly, but fly with the car from Basel, Switzerland, to Lamezia, where my parents are from. And we just would, stop for gas, stop for food. And it was like a 18 to 20 hour trip. And we just never saw, as a kid, I never saw Italy. And I was so happy that, once we started dating, that there's more than just, Calabria in Italy. And so I started to explore it more, even though I explored it a little bit more on my own too, when I was, before I met you, but also because I was playing soccer, and with the soccer team, we would travel a lot. We would do training camps in Italy and all that. And so that's how I got to learn a little bit more about Italy other than Calabria. So
I think we've provided enough background as to how we got introduced to Italy and why we're obsessed with Italy, or I guess where did the obsession begin? But let's move on now to what about Italy? What is it about Italy that we love more than any other country in the world that we could live in? We now have picked Italy, and I'll say from my point of view that there's so much to love about Italy. And, but I'll state what I love about it from an outsider's perspective, and then I'll let Davide chime in from his Italian perspective. But for me, the key things that I would summarize for somebody is usually first is the light. And the light is so magical. And while that seems like an odd thing to say about a country, as that you love it, but there is something about the light in Italy, and I guess for me specifically in Tuscany.
you're talking about the sunlight, right?
The sunlight, yes.
Yes.
The sunlight.
Not like street lights or anything.
No,
Okay.
the light, the sun. And the light, daylight, has a very different aura to me there. It's ethereal. And I don't use the word ethereal in day-to-day life, but it really is ethereal. It's this very warm sunlight, and it radiates, and it just seems happy, and it literally kisses the hills and the vineyards and the terracotta and the wheat fields. Everything just seems like it's glowing. So that'd be the first thing that I love about Italy that just struck me right away. You? Does that resonate with you, that you noticed the light?
And maybe as a kid, I did not care for that. I had a completely different experience. When we would travel down to Calabria, it was about the food. That was always the first thing, but not the light. For me,
so that wasn't a big deal for you.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I'm gonna have you pause on the food, because that was my next point that I wanted to get to, is what I love after this ethereal, magical aura of being in Italy is the food. You can't get over the food. And I think there's a reason that no matter which country you are in the world, there are always a million Italian restaurants that tend to be everyone's favorite food. But having Italian food in Italy is a completely different experience than having Italian food anywhere else in the world. And it comes down to the ingredients, and that they were grown and raised in Italy, and they're very simplistic dishes, but you just notice the intensity of the flavors, because it is such fresh produce and freshly grown food, and obviously amazing recipes and types of dishes that they have. But it really comes down, I think, more to the quality of the food.
I absolutely agree with you. The quality is remarkable. Whenever my mom was cooking in Italy, she would do the same dish. It always tasted like 10 times better. It's just because she was getting real, I call them real ingredients to make eggplant parmigiano, for example. It was just a different thing than when she was making it in Switzerland, or when I make it here in the US. It's just not the same.
Yeah. So we love the aura, we love the food, and we're really looking forward to getting to that food again. Next for me, I mean, really the language. It's a very pretty language compared to a lot of others. It's beautiful, it's melodic, and I can say that especially after like living 3 years in Switzerland with the High German and Swiss German, and it's a very guttural, very hard sounding language. And
Harsh.
It's harsh. And I hate to say that because I love my Swiss friends and the culture there as well, but the language is very different. Like when you think of the Italian language, it's sing-songy, it's beautiful. And I had my first experience with it actually in high school. I had my Spanish teacher decide that she was going to be unique and start an Italian class, and was I interested? So again, maybe that was a premonition way back at the beginning that I was going to be introduced to this Italian language. And now being married to an Italian speaker, I wish I could speak it a lot better than I do, but I will be.
You're doing okay. You're doing okay.
But I love the language. And I think the language then automatically transcends to the next part of Italy that I love, or point, is culture. And its emphasis on family and spending time together, and their passion and energy and willing to do anything for each other. And it's very much combined with the food. When I think of Davide's family and his mother, and she really shows her love through cooking and her food, and wanting to have that be a part of the traditions and the the lunches and the holidays that we have. That's a big part of the culture. I love, that the history that is in Italy, and so much of what we look to in even today's modern times, originated in Italy, whether it's the Romans or the Renaissance, and Galileo and all these Italian artists and architects and painters and Michelangelo. So there's so much history that is in Italy that I love. That's part of the culture. There is a very also kind of haphazard way about the Italian culture. Like things are like thrown together, colors, events, they kind of build on each other versus tear it down and start over. And they've been very separate in their very different towns and regions, and have a very diverse and authentic cultures within cultures. And they're very, passionate about then protecting their piece of Italy. I think another key part of the culture that I want to raise and share with you is this concept of la dolce vita, or dolce fa niente. And I'm going to let Davide explain a little bit more about these concepts. But to me, it's about Italians knowing how to live and love life.
Yes, dolce, la dolce vita is the sweet life translated, and it's when you live and you're happy, and there's nothing that will change that to throw you off. And I think the Italians, because their history and how they grew up in family, I mean, there's nothing more important than family. For Italians, family comes first, and that translates it to the lunches we have, for the holiday gatherings and all that, or even experience a dinner at a restaurant. Unlike here, you go here and within an hour and a half, you're thrown out because they need to free the table. Over there, it's an experience. So it's everything you do, it's an experience, and that's kind of the dolce vita that the Italians kind of have it down.
But also, my favorite is really that dolce fa niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. And a lot of that, and soon I even make sure that there's time for that during travel, right? Like you need to have time just to sit and experience, to sit in a piazza and watch life and watch and observe Italians and not have anything scheduled. Like I think that's part of what Italians do really well, is kind of take the day as it comes. And this is the great thing. Like we have nothing planned and it's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. When I moved to the US, I experienced the opposite. because everybody seems to be like busy all the time. When we want to get together with friends here in the US, we have to schedule it weeks in advance. In Italy, you just show up at somebody's place. Hey, how you doing? Good. You want a coffee? Sure. Come on in. So and you start visiting, and it's that dolce far niente as well that allows you to just be yourself and be in the moment. So
exactly. I had a little story I wanted to share, and for also to kind of summarize the Italian culture. And somebody else had shared this with me as an observation, but there are many countries like Switzerland, very structured. You can set your watch to certain events, and it's like they almost grew up watching Six Sigma courses that were trained how to do everything efficient and clockwork. And then there's Italy, and if you were to sit in a piazza and kind of watch the city wake up and watch a restaurant opening or a bank opening, and you watch them and you think that it's probably the first time they've ever done this. Every day is like a fresh thing. It's spur of the moment. It's a little bit more ad hoc. It's a little bit chaotic. And even though it's very routine and something they've probably done forever, it's done with, I don't know, a sense of just live and it happens and don't think too much. And I think as an American, that's going to be the hardest thing for me to probably let go of and try to adapt to. But it's very charming. And I love that about Italians, is that they don't overthink and they just do as if it were the first time they've ever done anything every day.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a different lifestyle for sure than here in the US. So
that's what we love about Italy. Okay. I think that's a key question answered, is what we love about it. And I think another thing to explain, that is very important to understand about us is travel. I love traveling. It's very much a part of me, as far as, what even got me, to Europe in the first place. Mm-hmm. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I had grown up being a avid reader. I loved reading historical fiction, and it just got me enticed to want to see the world. And living in Switzerland provided me a ton of opportunity to travel on the weekends, and we went to many different countries. We married and took a very extensive honeymoon and took 2 months because I wanted to have more time to see the countries we couldn't drive to when we were in Switzerland, and cover those before we moved. And we agreed that we were going to make this a priority in our lives, both when we lived in Switzerland and when we lived in the US. And I would often tell people, as we had to introduce ourselves and, at business meetings and other events, I'm either on a trip or planning a trip. That was really a part of me. And I love experiencing other countries. I love the diverse beauty to be found around the world. And it was very important to share that with our children and raise them in a travel environment and create these family memories together. So they have, since birth, been going to both Switzerland, Italy, France, Germany, all around. Of course, we went to other countries as well, in Mexico and Hawaii, and standard trips in the US, but it was all about travel. And I just really love traveling, and Davide did too, but I feel like we kind of formed a relationship doing this together.
Again, I traveled with my soccer team. I traveled on my own with my buddies in Switzerland, and that's all about it. But I never understood the difference between traveling and vacationing, because for me, I would travel to vacation, and Europe has this thing, and that's also a very difference between living in the US and living in Europe. I think most people in Europe, they travel to vacation, so they're gonna go to a beach or to relax. Like we went to Tuscany a couple of years ago, and there were a lot of European people on our resort that were just vacationing and spent the whole day there at the swimming pool and all that. And you go like, why are they doing that? There's so much to explore here. Is that because they live here. They've seen it before, but Americans come here maybe for the first time or the second time, and they want to see more. They want to see more of this beautiful country. So
yeah, and I think, but you're hitting on another point that I think is great to to pick up about traveling and vacationing, and to me it's experiencing. And I think what I really loved about especially our travels to Italy, which were always a little bit of a blend of a vacation and a lot of adventure because I wanted to see and I wanted to explore. But I think it taught me traveling with you, the word experience, and experiencing Italy as an Italian, because we had the language, we had the understanding of the culture.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was getting an inside peek of the country that other tourists didn't get, that they were really there and taking it in and trying to understand it. But for me, it was, wow, I can, with your assistance, you're speaking with the locals, you're helping us at restaurants as we went into different hotels or agriturismos or places that I got to meet others. I think that it made it easier for me to approach locals and get to know locals and know what it is to experience Italy. And I think that's really what I've taken with me over the years and wanting to share with others. And hence how we even got to the name of Experience Italy with Friends is it's about having that experience and the authenticity and seeing it like a local and wanting to seek out the less touristy aspects and asking locals, hey, like, what do you guys do around here? Like, what are the best places to go? What are the best restaurants? What are the great experiences to have? And even a little one recently, like we were in Sorrento and we'd been there many times. And it's through talking with a local that said, hey, you haven't really experienced this place until you went to the Bagni de Regina.
Yeah.
Like everyone else wants to go to the fancy like beach clubs and, where the Aperol spritzes and stuff, but you need to go to these, like hike over to these Bagni. Like that's the real place to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to add a little bit on to like our travels and what we love about traveling and that.
I think that, Italy for me was always about the food, right? Up until I went to Rimini, where I spent time with my soccer team again. And I couldn't believe that I would see like restaurants offering currywurst or like typical German stuff on the menu. And I go like, why are they doing this? I thought Italy was all about pizza and pasta and, all the other seafood and all of that. And I see like currywurst on the menu and all that. And so that's when I realized there's two different Italys. One, it's for the tourists to have the comfort from home. And one, it's actually for people that actually want to experience Italy, how authentic it is. And I don't know where I was going with it, but...
No, but I think it brings us to Experience Italy. And, I want to lead us then into kind of the next part of the conversation of traveling and how we've introduced other people to Italy. So first, because we did all this traveling, like we got really good at planning trips. One.
Well, you did a lot of that.
Yes, I will just own that. I did the logistics. I was the one who wanted to open up the guidebooks. And then when the internet came around, do all the research on the internet because Davide naturally would be like, let's just go. We'll just go. We'll show up and we'll learn
that's
about
what I used to do. We would just show up.
And I think as we had just, ourselves, that was easier to do. Once you introduced children into the game, like you had to have a little bit more structure.
Yeah.
And I think also with the age of the internet, more information became available, but also the concept of reservations and the need to have reservations to be able to get some of the more sought after places or experiences.
Yeah.
But I think also I'm going to kind of lead into here are bringing people with us because that kind of led, again, a key part of our story is one, we love Italy. We love to travel. We love to travel in Italy. Then we had neighbors, friends, family that wanted to go to Italy after hearing about it from us, but saying, gosh, it's kind of intimidating for us to get on a plane and go to Italy and figure this out for ourselves. Could we just go with you? And we were a little nervous to do that, I think, at first. And we kind of traveled Italy our own way and had family and ways that we were used to doing this. But it was really a fun experience, and it opened my eyes that I loved kind of sharing this with our friends. Davide obviously made it very easy for all of us that he helps to execute the plans, as I say, and can talk to people and help make reservations and get us that more authentic experience, because the language, or, their body language and how they approach you is different if you're truly a tourist than if they think you're a local. But it was fun. And I think it opened my eyes that, wow, I've learned a lot about Italy, and I could share this with our friends that were there and explain, why are we eating at 8:00 at night? Why is this normal? And how do you order at a restaurant? And what is the normal course of the day? And, what do you have for breakfast? And how do you order a coffee? And where do you, the afternoons, and when do things happen? And I was like, wow, I've really learned a lot about the culture, and I can kind of translate this to others and show Italy to other people, and had a lot of fun with that. So it kind of just brought this idea of like, well, how can we continue doing this? And it was, I think, actually our friends who mentioned to us, like, you guys should do this someday and make a business out of bringing people to Italy and sharing with them what about Italy and all the places that we've been. And I think too, then other Italians sort of pointed out as we continue to go there in these last years of, you guys, you've probably been to more places in Italy than we have, because like everybody, when you go on vacation, you probably leave your country, you leave your hometown, and you don't spend as much time in where you live. And so I think they're amazed when I'm talking about north to south, east to west, and they're like, wow, you've seen so much of Italy.
That goes back to my parents, they immigrated to Switzerland, right? So their vacation was to go back to their hometown. And a lot of my relatives, they are all spread over Italy. They are, Piemonte, they are in Liguria, they are in Toscana, Rome. They're all a little bit all over Italy. But for them, vacationing is going back to Calabria, So that's why they, don't know more than you do, because we experience that. We privileged enough to do that in our lives and travel all over. So, hey, Tanya, when was actually when you pulled the trigger and started Amici Vacations?
I think we talked about, like, we had this idea for some time that we wanted to bring people to Italy, and should we do this someday? And yeah, I guess, when did someday become today? And I think it transpired over COVID. And that was a pivotal part of our journey and our decision to go from an idea and a someday when we're retired to let's do this. And I think it was a lot of things that came out during COVID of like, live now, not for the future. And I think it was during COVID that you're home, you're quarantined, you're working from home. Companies were kind of in turmoil, not sure how to react. And I was working 60, 70-hour weeks and feeling burnt out. But also seeing that our lives were just dramatically impacted, and what it meant to live life and to enjoy life, and the unexpected deaths and people's lives being impacted, and seeing other people's hitting retirement and maybe not having health. I think it just brought a lot of resonating the concept of carpe diem and live now. And it hit us that, do we want to continue to work and live for vacations and live for these moments that we want to travel to other places and escape our day-to-day lives? Or do we want to embrace living life where we are most happy and where we are most enjoying our surroundings and the people we are around, and incorporating our passions into day-to-day, and not living for turning 60 and turning this magic age of retirement, where then we will be given permission to go live life and follow our passions. And it really was, I guess, the COVID. And it gave us a kick and said, hey, this is life. This is living. And do we want to wait to live, or do we want to start doing what we love now? And what we love is Italy, and traveling is our love, and sharing it with others, and trying to figure out what the dolce vita means personally.
I was just about to say, you just summarized la dolce vita.
What else do we want to cover in this episode? We're obsessed with Italy. We love Italy and what we love about it. How we got into kind of planning vacations to Italy, and the birth of Amici Vacations, and amici, I think I should point out, I don't know if you sort of assume people know, but amici means friends.
Yes.
And as we've talked about wanting to have an experience with Italy and a focus on bringing people to Italy, and it came to me right away, amici. This is about friends, and to name it Amici Vacations and have it be about experiencing Italy with friends and tying in that friends concept. And not only, I guess, when we first talked about it, it was like thinking of our friends and how bringing friends to Italy, but
our network, basically.
But it's expanded.
Yeah,
that our friends are the people in Italy. And so we've met people across Italy now, and I consider them my friends. And I'm introducing our friends here, our clients that are part of our Amici network. They go to Italy, they feel like they've met friends of ours and are being hosted. And they meet people, and it's expanding. And I think that's what I'm loving most about this being in hospitality now and sharing this, is the creating of that network. And so Amici has taken on even a broader term than I thought it was going to initially, in creating that name for the company. And I really cherish these relationships I'm building across the country, from northern Italy to Tuscany to southern, and hearing back from clients, yes, they asked about you, and tell Tanya hi and give her a hug. And I love that. And they're so hospitable. So I love that Amici network that we're creating. And I don't know, now we're here.
Where are we?
We're here. We're creating a podcast about this and wanting to tell people what we know and, experience Italy. I think we talked about that a lot and wanting to have that authentic experience. The hidden gems. I think, clients really point out that they value getting to know the hidden gems and the people that I know and the people that those people know that bring them to authentic. But, it's really sharing that with you, that we want to create a podcast and come back for our future episodes where we're going to talk about, all things Italy, places we've been, our favorite places.
We basically want our audience to weaponize with knowledge, expertise, and tips, and to kind of make worthwhile to them to when they're going to Italy that they know a little bit of.
Right, like we're going to tell you like where to go, like what we think are the best places to go in Italy, and they're all great. Like I tell everybody, it's like picking children. I can't really put one over the other, but I can tell you
that's a different episode for sure.
Pros and cons about what we love, but we're going to talk to you about and have episodes focusing on a destination to tell you what we love about it. Definitely the travel tips and the culture, having specific episodes on eating in Italy and what is that all about, the food and the meals and everything. We want to talk about, then our journey of moving to Italy. And that's really more the lifestyle part of this, of how did we choose to do this? What are we hoping to get out of this experience? And, and it's going to be definitely a lot of ups and downs and hurdles to achieve the dolce vita. And can we achieve this and what will entail? So I think that will be entertaining. So, we've always dreamed of living in Italy, and as empty nesters, we're going to make that a reality. But with all these experiences, we want to share them with you, past, present, future, and focus on, again, making you prepared, first inspired. Like I want to inspire you to go to Italy.
Sure.
And what we love about Italy and why you should go and make sure this is in your travel wish list of where to go. But also the tips that you should know about traveling in Italy and the logistics, but the culture and how to really experience it. And so first to inspire you, then to prepare you. And then maybe along the way, just entertain you with many of our stories and our experiences and moving to Italy. So, really, let's kind of wrap this up with a thank you for joining us. And I'm just excited as to where this is going to go.
Well, we won't leave you. We're going to have a segment on this podcast every time, which Tanya is going to have some tips for you. So, Tanya, do you have any tips for our audience? Tips from Tanya.
Thank you for this first episode. Let's assume you're just starting to prepare for your trip to Italy. 3 key tips to consider before you begin is first, focus about the experience. And when I talk about experience, it's 1, are you wanting a art and history experience? Do you want to have a beach experience? Are you going for the mountain? Like what in general experience do you want? But mostly when I talk about experience, I want to encourage you to have a lot of tours that you are connecting with locals. and experiences that put you in touch with those that live in the area, because that will guarantee you're having more of an authentic experience and not doing just the touristy elements of travel, but connecting. And that is, to me, again, the key part of experiencing Italy. The second tip I'll give you is to learn a bit about Italy before you go. Read about it, listen to other podcasts. I personally love listening to Rick Steves and his walking tours. And I listen to them before I go versus wait to be there. And I have listened to them even for places I've been many times. But it's fun to have that knowledge before you go and understand a little bit more about Italian culture. And we're hoping to share that with you too through our upcoming episodes to prepare you and be knowledgeable about Italy. And lastly, language. Learn a little Italian before you go. Some of the key words that'll help you make those connections locally, understand key phrases. And we'll have an episode about that coming up too, where Davide can share with us his key words as well as the correct pronunciation of those key Italian words to get you through. And I will finish it there. These are my 3 top tips as you start to plan your next trip to Italy.
Maybe if I can add to the experience part is to do less is more approach, less mileage and more seeing. So
that works. Others want to see all of Italy in 7 days.
All right, let's wrap it up.
We hope you've enjoyed Experience Italy with Friends. If you like the podcast, remember to follow us and leave a review letting us know what you found to be the most helpful. And if you want expert advice or assistance in creating your own immersive and authentic experience in Italy, visit us at www.amicivacations.com.